I'm on the west side of the school. The entrance is by the track.
Confirming, where do we want rescue? At the entrance by the track?
I'm sorry, on the south side of the school. South side of the gymnasium, is that correct?
First responders are expected to transition from routine activities to emergency activities in a matter of seconds. So in those complex times, we have to put into their hands something that is simple to use in the systems that they already use, because it's probably the most dangerous and most stressful time of their life.
Most people expect that all of the first responders in their community are going to automatically know where the middle school gym is, or the art room, or the athletic hallway is in their local school, and that's honestly not the case. Most people have a challenge navigating at their school during back-to-school night, let alone the challenge that a first responder faces when they're under a lot of stress and they have to navigate a big building like that.
The key issue with communication is the fact that you have different organizations responding to the same location. They're likely not familiar with that location. And so what can we hand them in that complex moment under stress that would make it easier for them to communicate across disciplines?
CRG was founded by special operations veterans who took the same mapping and communication technique that we used on special operations missions overseas, and we took that same technique and that same philosophy and we applied it to complicated buildings and complicated campuses back here in the States.
Special operations in the military, we used gridded reference graphics, or GRGs, exclusively. On every mission we conducted, we always had a GRG, and that was the common operating picture for everyone to communicate.
A GRG is a very simple, crude map that was mandatory within the special operations community. It really looks like a game of Battleship with letters across the top, numbers on the left-hand side. Every building's labeled, every intersection's labeled, but what was most important about the technique is that every person was forced to use it. It didn't matter if it was a pilot or a ground force commander, we were all on the same piece of paper, which enabled us to communicate and navigate efficiently.
We didn't make any of this up. For us, this was born from our real experience overseas. It wasn't how do you communicate often in a big building like high school. We had to communicate in complicated neighborhoods and complicated villages, but the philosophy or the technique was the same.
Our flagship product is the CRG, the Collaborative Response Graphic.
CRGs are very different from floor plans. If even at a first glance it looks like they might have some components that they share, floor plans as they exist today are not designed for emergency response. We have created over 45,000 maps. We've mapped over 16,000 K-12 schools. We have yet to ever find a single floor plan that is accurate from what you see on paper, wall for wall, door for door, with what you'll find in the real world.
Every CRG is going to include ultra-high resolution aerial imagery, detailed floor plans, site-specific labeling, critical infrastructure, landmarks surrounding a structure, a grid overlay, and a template.
When there's an emergency and somebody has to call that emergency in, we want them to use the terms and vernacular that they use every single day. So we work with our clients to make sure that that's exactly what we're putting on the maps.
Every place we map, we have to go visit in person. We send a CRG employee to every location we map. They walk around the exterior of the structure, they go down every hallway, they look in every room to make sure that the map we created reflects what's actually there on the ground.
We're a purely mapping company. When we wake up in the morning, we come to work to map facilities. A key tenet of the company is that we want to be partners with everybody. The mapping content that we provide is the thread, the common language that goes through all the different systems. So regardless of whether you're at the scene where the event is being called in, or if you're receiving that phone call, or if you're responding to the call, that common thread will exist in all the different systems so that people are talking the same language.
It's all about maps, not apps. There's a tremendous amount of mapping applications out in the world, but the way that we solve the problem is content that's agnostic. So independent of what someone has already procured, our mapping lives natively in that environment. And really the only way to get everyone on the same digital piece of paper is to acknowledge the fact that everyone has different systems, and just to make sure that the mapping content is agnostic and integratable across the platforms.
We absolutely believe in what we're doing at CRG. We are solving a problem and we are changing the way people operate.